Well, hello there. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today, I have for you yet again another short and exciting video. As you can see, the title suggests for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Is Isaiah actually teaching us how to study the Bible? This is what we want to look at in this video. Now, I would love for many of you to comment in the comment section and tell me if you're actually expecting a video like this. Tell me if it is that you had it in mind and you wanted to ask me and say, Kismar, when are you going to do a video on this? Why do I say this? Among all the videos that I've done, this is a long awaited video. This is one of their proof texts, and this is by far easily one of the most, if not the most popular proof texts from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And they use this passage of scripture to promote their way of studying the scriptures, which is proof texting. So the idea that they derive from this scripture passage is that Isaiah is saying that you should study the Bible here a little, there a little, precept upon precept, line upon line. So you take one from there, you take a little bit from there, you take a little bit from here. So you pinch over there, you pinch over there, and you pinch over there. And you put them together and put it into into context. So that is their idea of Bible study. How they think Isaiah is actually telling us to study the Bible. To take a little piece from there and take another piece from there. Rather than the required method of how to study the Bible, which is biblical hermeneutics and exegesis and so on, that is recommended by every theological school. What the deceived Seventh-day Adventist individuals say is that no, you should just pick from here and there and there and there, because that is what Isaiah said we should do. But of course, why I said they deceive Seventh-day Adventist individuals is because, as I would have said before, majority of their leaders, they are aware that the teachings are all flawed and that they are absolutely rubbish, right? But they teach them to their members nonetheless. Why? Some of them, the money is sweet in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and so they love it for vanity and so on, and they don't want to lose all of that, so they continue to teach them the nonsense. So this is why I specifically said they deceive individuals, because the informed Seventh-day Adventist who knows better knows that Isaiah is not teaching Bible study. Right? So this is why I single out and say some of them. No. Kismar, how can you prove that what they are saying regarding that is not true? We are going to have a look in the passage itself. I was actually searching to see if I find any specific quotes from Ellen White that I can use and say it is Ellen White they get this idea from, but regrettably, I'm searching and searching and I cannot find any, so I just gave up the search. If you know of any quote that suggests that they got this idea from Ellen G. White, then please do post it in the comment section, because I'm inclined to think that they didn't get this from Ellen White. It's just something that they made up of their own self. Right? But I'm not sure. If you have evidence, post it in the comment section. With that said, we're going to have a look into the verse in and of itself. Isaiah 28 verse 9 to 10. But y'all know how I love to do things. I love to give you the context. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to read from verse 1 and go all the way to verse 13. That way you can get the full idea of what Isaiah is saying and where Isaiah is actually coming from. Right? I'll be using a different translation, or I'll switch on several translations as I see fit, so that you can get different ideas from different translation, and you'll see that Isaiah is not teaching Bible study. So with that being said, guys, let us have a look at it. Isaiah 28, reading first from verse 1 onwards. I'll be using mostly the New Living Translation, however. What sorrow awaits the proud city of Samaria, the glorious crown of the drunks of Israel. It sits at the head of a fertile valley, but its glorious beauty will fade like a flower. It is the pride of a people brought down by wine. Now, what I'm going to do is that while I'm reading from the New Living Translation, I'll post other translation as well on the screen as much as I can, so that you can see the various different views. We will not be using the King James Version, however. Right? We will not be using it. So let's start again. What sorrow awaits the proud city of Samaria, the glorious crown of the drunks of Israel. It sits at the head of a fertile valley, but its glorious beauty will fade like a flower. It is the pride of a people brought down by wine. For the Lord will send a mighty army against it, like a mighty hailstorm and a torrential rain. They will burst upon it like a surging flood and smash it to the ground. The proud city of Samaria, the glorious crown of drunks of Israel, will be trampled beneath its enemies' feet. It sits at the head of a fertile valley, but its glorious beauty will fade like a flower. Whoever sees it will snatch it up as an early fig. It is quickly picked and eaten. Then at last the Lord of heaven's armies will himself be Israel's glorious crown. He will be the pride and joy of the remnant of his people. He will give a longing for justice to their judges. He will give great courage to their warriors who stand at the gates. Now, however, Israel is led by drunks who reel with wine and stagger with alcohol. The priests and prophets stagger with alcohol and lose themselves in wine. They reel when they see visions and stagger as they render decisions. Their tables are covered with vomit. Filth is everywhere. And here is the part where we are waiting for now. Who does the Lord think we are? This is what the drunkards are saying now. They ask, who does the Lord think we are? They ask, why does he speak to us like this? Are we children just recently weaned? The Amplified Version says thus, to whom will he teach knowledge? Ask the drunkards, and whom will he make to understand the message? Those who are babies, just weaned from the milk and taken from the breast? Is that what he thinks we are? That is the Lord, The drunkards are asking this. Verse 10. He tells us everything over and over. One line at a time, one line at a time. A little here and a little there. This is what the drunkards are complaining and saying, that God is telling us the same thing over and over. One line at a time, one line at a time, a little here and a little there. Amplified Version says, for it is his prophets repeating over and over, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, rule upon rule, rule upon rule. Here a little, there a little. Then verse 11 says, so now God will have to speak to his people through foreign oppressors who speak a strange language. And guess what? This here is also quoted by Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, I believe it's verse 21. Right? And then Paul tell you how tongues is for a sign. Right? I'll put it on the screen for you all to basically see. Now, before we even get to verse 12 and 13, what is this saying? After in verse 10, when it says, he tells us everything over and over again. One line at a time, one line at a time. A little here and a little there. So now God will have speak to his people through foreign oppressors who speak a strange language. Why did God choose to do this? Why did he choose to do this? God is giving them the message. Here a little, telling them the same thing over and over. One line at a time, one line at a time, a little here and a little there. But yet still, even after God is making the message so plain to them by giving it to them, precept upon precept, precept upon precept. It's a KJV now. Line upon line, here a little, there a little. Telling them everything over and over again. One line at a time, one line at a time. A little here and a little there. God is making the message so plain for them, and yet still, they are still not heeding. It is so simple, and this is why they were complaining in verse 9, saying, who does the Lord think we are? Who does the Lord think we are? They ask, why does he speak to us like this? Are we little children just recently weaned? God is still giving them the message as if they are babies, lack understanding to how plain He's making the message to them. And this is why they were complaining. If you look at it, verse 10 and verse 11, and I have other translations so that you guys can see it. And so, because they are so stubborn, even while God is making the message so plain to them and they are not listening, God says, KJV, for with stammering lips and another tongue will He speak to His people. The NLT says, so now God will have to speak to His people through foreign oppressors who speak a strange language. But guess what? We are going to verse 12 now and see, will they heed even after this? Verse 12 says, God has told His people, here is a place of rest. Let the weary rest here. This is a place of quiet rest. But they would not listen. They would not listen. So the Lord will spell out His message for them again. One line at a time, one line at a time. A little here and a little there. So that they will stumble and fall. They will be injured, trapped and captured. The Amplified Version says, therefore, the word of the Lord will be to them merely monotonous repeatings of precept upon precept, precept upon precept, rule upon rule, rule upon rule. Here a little, there a little. That they may go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. Anything in this suggest anything about Bible study? No. What this is showing here is that in delivering the message to His people, God make it plain. One line at a time, one line at a time. Right? So that they can't say that they don't understand to how plain He makes the message. Yet still, they be complaining about God speaking to them as though they are babies. Right? As if they lack understanding. And even despite that, they still don't heed the message. And what verse 13 said that God is going to do, the Lord is going to spell out His message again. As plain as He normally do it. Why? So that they would all stumble and fall. You may be asking yourself, why? What is this verse 13 saying? Verse 13 is telling you that God chose to make His message so plain so that their condemnation can even be greater. They can't say as an excuse, boy God, we didn't understand what you were saying, and so because we didn't understand what you were saying, we didn't comprehend it, this is why we chose to do our own thing and disobey. No, instead God spells it out to them and He makes it very plain. Knowing their stubborn hearts, they are still going to reject it all the more so that condemnation can come on them. So that is why God may spell out His message again for them, one line at a time, as plain as He can get, right? So that they will stumble, fall, be ensnared and taken, so that they will be condemned for their hard hearts. This is what Isaiah here is actually telling you. Yes, this is what Isaiah is actually revealing to us. This is what Isaiah chapter 28 verses 9 to 13 is actually conveying. Now, I would have said before, which I believe is in one of my previous videos, that in order to understand what scripture means or how to apply it to us, you have to first understand what it meant for the initial audience. One, for the initial audience, this was not talking about Bible study. First and foremost, there wasn't even the New Testament scripture. The New Testament didn't exist as yet. Secondly, by the time of Isaiah, all they had was basically the law. All the books of the different prophets wasn't compiled as yet. Right? All of them wasn't compiled as yet as one. So the only thing that they had was, Isaiah at least, was basically the law. Right? That's all he would have, the law, and perhaps he would have the Psalms and so forth, because of course David was around before Isaiah. So he might have had access to the book of Psalms and Proverbs and, Solomon books and so on. He might have some of those persons who were before him. He might have access to those things. Right? However, this was not even talking about how to study the Old Testament, how to study the law, how to study the Psalms and so forth. It was not talking about any of that. So once you establish that, it doesn't mean that for the initial audience, what is the meaning of it then? It is showing you what you can apply from this is that just as how God makes his message plain to his people, line upon line, right? One line at a time, one line at a time. Here a little, there a little, right? It is in the same way when you are delivering the message, you should try to not make it ambiguous, right? Try not to make it ambiguous. Make it plain so that persons can actually understand it. One line at a time, here a little, there a little. And in making it plain, I guarantee you, proof text is not going to make it plain to them. All proof text will do is actually create confusion. That's all it will do, and you'll have a bunch of contradictions when you actually use proof text. So their way of what they think Isaiah is actually saying doesn't work, right? Because Isaiah is not teaching Bible study. But if you want to use Isaiah and apply it, make your teachings, make truth and so forth plain so that person will understand it. And how do you do it? Through proof texting? No. Through the required method of how to actually study the Bible, which is what is recommended. Hermeneutics and exegesis, not eisegesis or proof text. So with that said, I end this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Bye bye now.